Join the conversation. It's the Richard Eads Show, Monday through Friday, right here on KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe. Streaming on SantaFe.com. Call 424-4550.
Thrills be gone tomorrow night.
7 minutes after 10 o'clock. Beautiful Friday. The wind is coming up a little bit, but we'll have a high today of about 80. 10% chance of rain later today, 20% chance of rain over the weekend. Highs in the mid to high 70s. Going to be a lovely weekend. Really happy to have in studio with us now a man who's a legend in Santa Fe. Never met him until he did come in today. I had my doubts whether he would show up or not. I think he likes to mess with people a little bit. Forrest Fenn. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Sound good? Okay.
And I might say that I'm your biggest fan, 101.5 on your FM radio dial. We listened to you on the way over here today.
Really?
That's right.
So now you're the biggest fan. And you say you brought your granddaughter Mika.
My granddaughter Mika, yeah, she's just out of college. She's trying to find out what she's going to do.
Texas Tech, international business graduate.
That's right.
Red Raider. All right, Forrest Fenn, best known probably, in the last, I don't know how long this has been going on, 5 years maybe, the treasure hunt.
Oh, yeah, about 5 years.
About 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're internationally famous, but you've been a well-known businessman, collector. You're into all kinds of different things. You've been around Santa Fe for a long, long time.
Well, I moved to Santa Fe in 1972.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It is a long time, especially, there's been people here for, 400 or 500 years, but a lot of other people have just moved here probably in the last 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. There you go. I can see you a little better that way. What did you do? When you moved here in 72, what was the reason?
Well, I was a fighter pilot in Vietnam, and I had a hard tour. I was shot down twice, and I took battle damage. I lost some roommates, and I lost 22 pounds and didn't even know it. And I came home mentally tired and physically tired, and Santa Fe was the only place I knew where the world would stop and let me out. Mm-hmm. And that was my image of Santa Fe at that time. And I knew I wasn't going to wear a watch or a coat and tie.
Yeah.
And so Santa Fe was the place for me.
Perfect. How much injuries sustained in the crashes? In the plane crashes when you were shot down? You sustained physical injuries?
I was damaged a little bit when the helicopter pulled me up through the trees and out of the jungle in Laos.
Right.
Hurt my head some and beat me up a little bit. But the first time I was shot down, I crash landed on a little helicopter strip in South Vietnam, and I walked away from that. I've always said that any landing you can walk away from is a good one.
Good enough.
But in that case, any landing you can crawl away from was a good one.
Right. Where were you flying, jets or propeller?
I was flying an F-100 C&D. It was a jet, held a world speed record when I first started flying that airplane.
But only land-based, no carrier-based?
That's right. I'm too smart for that.
Yeah. Not going to try it. So that kind of prompted you to move here. Where did you grow up? Where did you spend most of your childhood?
I was born and raised in Temple, Texas, a little town between Waco and Austin.
Okay.
And
probably under floodwater today. And they're having tough times down that.
Fortunately, that's a little bit south there. But I was a farm kid. We had cows and chickens and ducks and things, and we had a good life. I was born in 1930.
Right.
And people were still riding horses in those days.
True. Yeah. Cars were too unreliable.
That's right.
On the dirt roads. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Horses were reliable. Went to town with a wagon, right? Because
that's right. There was a lot of that going on. And livery stable was just a half a mile from my house. I was always watching cowboys ride back and forth.
All right. Forrest Fenn is our guest. So, Forrest, you moved here in the 70s, as you said, intending to recover, get over the war in Vietnam, and you knew you were going to have whatever kind of life you wanted, a slower life because of Santa Fe. What did you come here intending to do, or did you just come here looking for something?
Well, I came here, I wanted to deal in luxuries. And art, I didn't know anything about art. I made terrible grades in high school, and I never did go to college. So, I started at the bottom. But I had a bunch of rules that I'd made for myself over the years. And one of my rules is that I don't want to do anything where my best customer gives me $100. I want my best customer to give me a lot more than that, and
Right.
I didn't know how to do that. But I found my nicho in Santa Fe eventually. I built a gallery over on 1075 Paseo de Peralta, just 2 blocks east of the Capitol building, and we started slow. My wife and I slept on the floor while we plastered the walls, and it took a while. I had 2 what I call major shows, and didn't sell anything. Didn't even sell a book, And I told myself, I may have to go flip burgers or something. but I had a little money left, and I said I'm gonna spend this money advertising. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna slam the door and walk away.
Right.
But it started working. Things started happening, and I started playing Monopoly, buying property
Right.
around myself.
Right. So you sold one painting, reinvest it, grow.
I sell one painting, take the money, and buy a better painting.
Right.
I sell that one and then buy a better one.
All right, Mika, are you listening?
I listen every day.
Yeah. Sounds like a good business plan in general. But for you don't want to take anything less than $10,000 from your first customer, right? But it's a good plan. And it worked out, right?
It worked out eventually. The art business was very good to me in Santa Fe.
What were you trying to show, though, in the gallery? You were trying to show native art, Western art?
I wanted to sell old art because I didn't want to argue with artists. I wanted to deal with dead ones.
You're right.
And
That
was a wise move on my part.
No negotiation necessary.
That's right.
Except with the buyer. And eventually, how big did the gallery become?
How big did the gallery become? Well, I don't.
Artists come to you, or art came to you?
Art came to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
The secret to having a successful art gallery is having something that everybody wants to buy from you. And anybody can sell a great painting, but not anybody can find a great painting to sell. And so my job was to find great art to sell.
But you were not great at school. How did you learn what was great art?
Well, eventually, I think the price had something to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, but
If it was expensive, it was good art.
But I was looking for names too, and all of that work started working for me after a while. And
Sure.
One of the measurements, the way I measure my success was I never had to borrow money to make payroll. That was one of my rules. I don't want to do that.
Right.
And after 2 or 3 years, we were living off of accounts receivable. And so I told myself, as long as I can do that,
Right.
I never did want to borrow money because I figured the only way I could lose my business is if I owed money.
Right. The bank took it from you.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like a very interesting beginning. I mean, it was hard there for a while, though, right?
Well,
before you got the ball rolling.
I started at the bottom, and I'd go around to different galleries in town. Actually, I was one of the first art galleries in town, 1972. There was Margaret Jameson Gallery, and that was just about it. But I'd go around some of the shops and see what they were doing. What can I learn by going? I remember I went in the Kachina Gallery up on Canyon Road. They sold Kachina dolls, and there were just 10 million Kachina dolls everywhere. And they had little signs there on the wall or and it said, if you touch it, you bought it.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your kids. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I was feared for my life. So I learned from that. I went back to my gallery and I made a number of little signs that said, "Please touch. We are responsible." So that's how I learned the business. I was never, I never had a customer break anything. I had employees break some things, but how can you buy a great piece of art if you're not allowed to touch it? I don't understand some of these. I think I had an advantage over some people because I never did learn the rules that make businesses fail.
Right. And you didn't, and if you didn't learn the bad habits, the bad rules of the galleries or the artists around town, started out with what you believed in, your own business philosophy.
That's right. And another rule I had was that I'll take your check for any amount of money. And this guy bought an expensive painting from me. I think it was $275,000. And he said, "Well, how can I pay you for this?" And I said, "Well, I'll take your check." Mm-hmm. He said, "You'll take my check?" I said, "Sure, I'll take your check." So he pulled out his ID card to show me. I said, "I don't want to see that." I said, "I can look in your face." And I said, and I was never sorry. I had 2 bad checks. One of them was for $25 for a book, and I forgot what the other one was.
Right.
But I believed in
the $275 cashed. They cleared the bank.
It cleared the bank.
Oh, that's nice.
And I owed most of it, so I was hoping that it would clear the bank.
Indeed. Our guest is Forrest Fenn. We'll continue our conversation, get into how he started collecting, what he started collecting, and we'll talk about the treasure hunt. Is it real or is it just, I don't know, a metaphor? 17 minutes after 10 o'clock. This is KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe. We stream worldwide from santafe.com. Podcasts are available by about noon, 1 o'clock, whenever Gino gets around to it. Also, santafe.com/Richard Eads. We've made it a lot easier. Also, pictures of Forrest and a little video of Forrest also on our Facebook page for KVSF 101.5. We'll be back right after this, 17 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Move on down the line.
Keep it right here on Santa Fe's Talk Leader. We'll be right back on the Richard Eads Show on KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe, and streaming live at santafe.com. Have an opinion? Call 424-4550. This is the Richard Eads Show on the voice of Santa Fe, KVSF 101.5, and streaming live on santafe.com. Call in and get it out there.
20 minutes after 10 o'clock. It is Friday, means blues. We play the blues on Friday. Beautiful day so far in Santa Fe. Clouds are moving in a little bit. Wind is picking up a little bit, but it's going to be about 80 today, already in the mid-60s, and it's going to be a nice weekend as well. Guest in studio is Forrest Fenn and his granddaughter Mika, and we just learned that Forrest is looking for, he not only collects stuff, but he's also looking for stuff. If anybody knows where he can buy a 1935 Plymouth. Now, is it two-door or four-door?
Well, the one I had was a two-door, and very interestingly, there's the difference between a deluxe 1935 Plymouth and the second-rate car is on the deluxe. It has a windshield wipers on both sides, okay, and it has a sun visor, not just on the driver's side, but both sides.
Made it deluxe.
That's right.
It had two of each.
That's right.
But you would like to buy one if you can find the right one, and this is because it's the first car you had. And then when you went in the Air Force, you came back and it was gone.
In 1946, I was 16 years old. I moved to Atlanta to spend a summer with a friend, and I saved $250 to buy a car, and that's what I gave for that 1935 Plymouth. And I didn't have a driver's license, but I was so short I really couldn't see over the dashboard, but I piled a book and a couple of pillows on, and I drove my car from Atlanta, Georgia to Temple, Texas at night.
Without a driver's license.
Because I didn't want the police to see that I was too young to be driving. So I slept during the day and drove all night.
Have all your kids and grandkids known these stories? You're not a very good example for a lot of them.
Well, if I don't know a good story, I'll just make up one, so they know all of those.
All right, but you're still looking for, if somebody out there knows where there's a two-door, you want the deluxe 35 Plymouth?
No, mine was not deluxe.
All right.
But
But you take either.
What?
You would take either if anybody has one.
Oh, sure.
But you want something that's decent, right? You don't want.
I want to be able to drive it. I mean, it'll be a culture shock for downtown Santa Fe if I drive around in that 35 Plymouth.
That'd be great. All right. So people could find you on the website?
OldSantaFeTradingCo.com is my website.
All right, so they can find email if they have a Plymouth.
Sure.
Yeah, get in touch with you.
Yeah.
Send you some pictures maybe first.
That's right. I'd love that.
That'd be cool. All right, so what do you collect now? I mean, pictures show it looks like your house is pretty much floor to ceiling, wall-to-wall stuff. Started collecting when you were I
was 9 years old when I found my first arrowhead, and that's what started me. My philosophy is that if I don't have that object, then I can't have all of them.
Right.
So that was a pretty good.
Whatever next.
and I always paid too much. I never bought anything for a fair price. But my philosophy was, if I give you too much for something, you spend the money and you don't have anything, but I have the object. Mm-hmm. So I always had an advantage when I was buying something from you.
What's the most you ever spent on something you still have?
$200,000 on a painting.
Still have?
Yeah.
What is it of?
It's a Nikolai Feshin painting of a little girl painted in Taos.
Okay.
But I own Sitting Bull's pipe, and it's worth a bunch of money, and people laugh at me when I say Sitting Bull owned this pipe. But we took pictures of it and we blew it up and we we matched grain in the wood of Sitting Bull Hold It with the grain in the wood of the photograph we took. So there's no question that, but what it was, Sitting Bull was holding that pipe. And that's one of my prized possessions.
Along with the arrowhead.
It has a lot of history, sure.
You still have the arrowhead.
Still have the arrowhead.
And what kind of Indians lived in Temple, Texas? What was the tribe?
Well, we're on the southern edge of the Kiowa, Comanche, Southern Cheyenne, Oto, Osage.
Okay.
Southern Cheyenne, yeah, mostly Comanche and Kiowa. I remember my grandmother telling me when she was a kid in Fort Worth, Texas, the Comanches were running through her barnyard trying to catch chickens, and her father said, leave those guys alone. I mean,
Yeah, let them have the chicken.
Let them have the chicken, yeah.
Right. Interesting. I was born, I wasn't raised there, but I was born in a little town called Beeville, if you know where that is.
Oh, sure, that's down in South Texas.
Yeah, kind of between San Antonio and Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
Pretty flat down there. We still have a ranch down there that just went on the market. Cousins decided it's been sitting long enough, but they sent pictures. They have pictures posted on the internet. I remember it's exactly the same as when I was a little kid. So over all these years, Forrest, since you were 9 years old, now you're 75 somewhere.
I'm 84.
84 years old. I was trying to be nice. And it looks like mostly historical memorabilia is what you like. American historical.
Well, not necessarily American. I have some Egyptian things, ancient Egyptian, and like Roman and Greek, you name it. If it's old and good, I like it.
Really?
Especially if it has some history.
What about if there is anything, if there is a treasure chest, if there's anything in it, if there are coins, gold, and jewels in it, if there is one, when did you start amassing those? How old do you think?
Why would you say if there is one?
I don't know.
Why would you question me?
I don't know. There are some people that think that you are trying to enlighten people to the fact that there are other kinds of treasures in life other than gold and jewels.
Well, you said if there is one. I was afraid that people would say that I wrote my memoir and it's as a gimmick to sell the book. The treasure chest is a gimmick to sell the book. So I don't know whether you know this or not, but I gave all the books to the Collected Work bookstore in Santa Fe. I didn't even get my publishing costs back. Just so guys like you couldn't say that if there is a treasure chest.
So you're stating emphatically right now there is a treasure chest.
There's a treasure chest, and it's out there, and you're the kind of guy that could go out there and find it.
I probably could.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna try and get a clue out of you before you. But all right. So how big has it gotten? How big has the entire phenomenon gotten? I know there's been hotels in Laredo. When I think when one of the clues came out, they ran a treasure hunters special, filled the hotel. I mean, you're doing a lot for business in Santa Fe.
Well, that's right. The mayor presented me with a beautiful little thing yesterday at the bookstore, thanking me for Santa Fe. The occupancy rate in the motels in Santa Fe was up 10% last summer. Nobody knows why. But I think the treasure searchers 30,000 of them came to Santa Fe last summer.
30,000.
And Yellowstone Park had more visitors last summer than any other year in their history.
Why Yellowstone?
Because that's where I grew up, and a lot of people think the treasure is hidden someplace in Yellowstone. I've said that
Yellowstone National Park.
Yeah.
Jellystone.
I've said that it's
Yogi Bear.
It's in the Rocky Mountains north of Santa Fe, and Yellowstone is.
That's true.
Fits that description, sure. The treasure is out there, I guarantee you.
All right. You've also said it's under 14,000 feet.
No, I said it's below 12,200 feet and above 5,000 feet.
Okay. But everywhere is above 5,000 feet.
There's not a place in the Rocky Mountains.
You're not helping people, and there's a lot of places.
Well, this lady called me on the phone, and she said, "Mr. Fenn, I've studied your poem, and it says I've looked at your clues. It says I cannot figure it out. You got to help me with something else." And I said, "Well, lady,
no, I don't.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you a clue.
All right.
The treasure is more than 300 miles west of Toledo." And she said, "Well, thank you, Mr. Fenn. I really appreciate that."
Thought she had something.
And she hung up the phone as happy as a bumblebee.
Now, the people are convinced. People have done this scrupulously, gone through your clues, convinced they know this spot. And I was reading the story. One man wrote you an email and said, "You just wait. I'll send pictures. I'll have it by this weekend or something." You'd never heard back?
I get 50 emails a day that say that.
Really?
Sure.
Really?
And they know exactly where it is. There are 5 people that have said that they think that the whole story is a hoax.
Right.
But all 5 of them were avid searchers. They knew where the treasure was, but when they went to where it should be and it wasn't there, one of 2 things happened. Either somebody has already found it and left with it, or the whole story is a hoax. But interestingly, all 5 of those people are still out searching.
Of course. Can you stick around a little while longer?
Sure.
All right. 30 minutes after 10 o'clock. Our guest is Forrest Fenn. I'm glad he came in. I had my doubts. Forrest is a bit of a prankster, I have a feeling. We'll find out from Mika. We'll find out the truth here in a second from your granddaughter. 29 minutes after 10 o'clock. We'll be right back. It is Friday. Thank God it's Friday. We stream live at SantaFe.com. KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe.
This is the voice of Santa Fe. You're listening to The Richard Eads Show. The Richard Eads Show live and taking your calls at 424-4550 on the voice of Santa Fe.
33 minutes after 10 o'clock. Our guest, Forrest Fenn, treasure collector, treasure hider, book writer, author, has a new book coming out. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so do you want to tell us, Forrest, the treasure definitely exists, and doubters like me should just, whatever. And, I don't want to say it on the radio, but can you tell us what might be in it?
What's in the treasure chest?
What's in the treasure chest?
I can tell you exactly what's in it. There
Okay.
are 265 gold coins.
From what period?
American eagles and double eagles, but there are some Middle Eastern gold coins that date to the 14th century.
Nice.
There are hundreds and hundreds of gold nuggets. 2 gold nuggets are larger than a hen's egg. They weigh 1.2 troy pounds each, but hundreds of other gold nuggets. But there's 2 beautiful little ancient Chinese jade carvings, and there's pre-Columbian gold figures and necklaces and hundreds of
Precious gems?
hundreds of rubies. There are 2 Ceylon sapphires. There's about 8 nice emeralds and lots of little diamonds. And it's if you find a treasure chest and put it on your lap and raise the lid, it'll be a culture shock for you, Mr. Eads.
All right. Well, I'm starting to believe here. What is the chest itself?
The chest is a beautiful cast bronze thing, 10 inches by 10 inches and 5 inches high, and it's absolutely full of gold.
Is it old? The chest itself?
We think it's 12th century, sure, Romanesque.
Okay.
And it's I don't know what to say, but if you find it, you'll either start laughing or you'll faint. One of the 2.
No, I'd pass out. I'd die on the
I gave
spot.
$25,000 for the chest.
How long had you had it?
Well, I started collecting things in 1982 when I had cancer and I thought I was going to die. That's when I got the idea to hide this treasure chest. Why not let everybody else have as much fun as I've had over the many years? And that was my motivation.
And so you bought the chest right around that period?
Yeah.
Okay. How much does it weigh?
The chest, the gold in the treasure chest weighs 20.2 troy pounds, and the chest weighs 22 pounds. So the whole thing is, I think, around 42 pounds.
All right.
43 pounds.
All right. So
it was heavy enough that I made 2 trips to hide it. I took the gold in one time, and then I took the treasure chest in the second time.
okay. What kind of shoes? What kind of footprint were you leaving? What kind of boots did you have on?
Well, if I told you that, you'd go out and find it.
Forrest, is there any chance that somebody has found it, or would?
I'm 99.9% sure that no one has found the treasure chest. You can never be 100% sure, but sure, it's still out there. I mean, I would bet my kingdom that it's still out there.
And you have a substantial kingdom. How do you decide to add clues? And you've done them how so far?
Well, there are 9 clues in my poem, and the poem is in my book.
Right.
And I'm not going to give any more clues.
Okay.
There are hints in my book that will help you with the clues, but a clue will point you toward the treasure chest, and a hint will just help you with the clues, if you can understand that.
No, that makes sense.
But I don't give any more clues. I've given I've said some things that people think are clues.
Right.
Like I've said
200 miles west of Toledo or something.
and it's not buried in an outhouse. I've given that as a clue.
That's good.
Yeah, some people are very happy to get that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. You said the motivation was you got sick. Did you think this was it? You were going to be checking out?
Well, my doctor gave me a 20% chance of living 3 years. I mean, look at the odds. 1 in 5 is not very good.
Right.
But I told myself, that has to seek. It takes you a couple of weeks for that to soak in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I told myself, if I'm going, who says I can't take it with me? Sure, I can take it with me. And that's when I got the treasure chest and I started filling it up with wonderful things. If I'm going to go, I'm just going to take it with me. And heck with what everybody else thinks.
Right. And
the trouble is I got well and ruined the story.
Yeah, you ruined the whole thing. But I mean that was kind of the motivation for wanting to do that. And then how long ago your latest book that you published is 3 years old, 2 years old, 3 years old,
something like that. It's called Too Far to Walk.
Right.
It's kind of a continuation of my Thrill of the Chase book.
What was the thrill of the chase?
Why would you ask me what is the thrill of the chase? You know that more than anybody in the world does that.
Well, I'm just sitting here. I hope there's people listening in their cars or at work or at home.
Well,
they want to hear it from you.
If you haven't been consumed by something in your life, I think you deserve another turn. And the thrill of the chase personifies that to me.
Keep living.
Yeah.
Always be chasing.
Sure. Everybody needs to collect something.
Right.
And I may be the world's greatest collector. I collected bottle tops. I collected string.
Tinfoil.
I never. I could have done that, but I don't think I ever collected tinfoil. But that's something that could have been on my agenda if I'd thought about it.
One of the things that seems to surprise you when you have talked to the press or you've done little videos about this entire treasure chest and about your life, and it's been a life definitely worthy of books and lots being written about it. You seemed a little bit surprised at the people that people have invaded your privacy a little bit. Were you not expecting that? I mean, here's a man in Santa Fe, New Mexico, who lives out. You live out in the open. You're not behind a giant wall or a compound. You live out in the open. You're just a man who goes around, does his own business. Were you a little bit surprised that people would be so brash?
No, I worked on this project for a long time, and I really think I thought about most things. Certainly, the thought occurred to me that my life could be in danger by somebody kidnapping me. And I've called 911 3 times at my home. This one guy started wrestling with police officers, and they handcuffed him, took him off to jail. But that's a very small group of people. And the great preponderance of people looking for the treasure are really good Americans. And they'll say, Mr. Fenn, we know we're not going to find the treasure, but I just want to thank you for getting me and my kids off the couch and away from the game room and now to smell the sunshine. That's important to me. This lady a writer from Austin called me on the phone. She said, Mr. Fenn, I've read your book. That's really a strange book. She said, who is your audience for a book like that? I said, lady, my audience is every redneck in Texas that lost his job, has 12 kids and a pickup truck. I said, that's my audience, and that's who I hope finds my treasure. But, Mr. Eads, we have a problem in this country with our youth today. And I think none of us are doing enough to solve that problem. The teenagers of today are going to be our congressmen and senators 20 and 25 years from now, President of the United States. And I blame the churches and the schools, and I blame you, and I blame me, and I blame Mika, because we're not doing enough to solve that problem. Our greatest asset we have in this country is our youth.
Do you think the problem is lack of activity, or are you talking about lack of education? What is the problem for us?
Well, I think it's all of those things, but it's something that I feel is incumbent upon all of us to try to solve. And in my small way, I'm doing a part. If everybody in this country, all the grown-ups in this country would do a little bit, it would make a big difference.
How many people are now actively part of your plan, your master plan, your effort, if all of this is to improve, our country and to improve all of the lots for everybody, how many people do you think are now involved by your books or are looking for your treasure?
Well, I think my guess is that 50,000 people will come to Santa Fe this summer.
This summer.
And just as many into Colorado and Wyoming and Montana.
And Yellowstone.
A lot of people think the treasure chest is in Montana around Hebgen Lake and the Gallatin National Forest. That was very important to me when I was a kid, and I've said that in my book.
Mm-hmm.
So, that they see that as a hint as to where the treasure is.
Mm-hmm. So 50,000 people you think this summer, but you're not gonna release any more clues.
I'm not going to release any more clues.
All right. Yeah. What will you do to stoke the fires?
What would I do to what?
What will you do to kind of create more buzz, create more activity to keep people interested or to get more people interested?
Well, it's out of my hands now, really. When I hid that treasure chest, there was nobody around. And I was walking back to my car, and I looked around, and I started laughing, and out loud I said, Forrest Fenn, did you really do that? And I started laughing. I thought it was the most atrocious thing I'd ever done. But in the back of my mind, I told myself, if I'm sorry tomorrow, I can go back and get the treasure chest.
Good point.
But the more I thought about it, I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I told myself, it's out of my hands now. I'm a interested bystander at this point. But I get between 100 and 120 emails every day from people that most of them know where the treasure chest is. They just want me to confirm it. This one lady says, Mr. Fenn, I'm coming out there in my pickup truck, but it's not a very good truck anymore. He said, if my truck breaks, will you pick me up and take me the rest of the way to the treasure chest?
Mm-hmm. No problem, right?
No problem.
What, of course, the value has got to fluctuate with the price of gold goes up and down. Average day, what's the treasure worth inside the treasure?
I've thought about that, and I really know. A lot of the coins have numismatic value beyond the price of gold,
historic value.
And that fluctuates every day. But there's so many little things that I really don't know what they're worth. Those two little ancient Chinese jade figures, I think I gave $12,000 or some each for those things, and the sinew and Tyrona necklace that has fetishes made out of quartz crystal and cornelian and semi-precious stone. It's 2,000 years old, and I put the last thing I put in that bracelet was a little bracelet that has 22 little turquoise Dick's beads in it that Richard Weatherall found the first time he went into the day he discovered Mesa Verde. Climbed down the cliffs and walked into the Mesa Verde. He picked up these 22 little beads.
Was he one of the guys on the cattle drive that found, you say discovered for white men? Was he one of the guys on the cattle drive that discovered by accident?
Well, Richard Weatherall discovered Mesa Verde.
Okay.
And if my story is correct, he was sitting up on the bluff there in a tree, and he took a nap, and when he walked up, the shadows had changed, and he looked across there, and there's Mesa Verde. And he was flabbergasted because he had never seen that before, and he worked around that part of the country.
Okay. It's one of my favorite places.
Well, I won that little bracelet in a pool game with Byron Harvey, who was one of the heirs of Fred Harvey. And it has a good story, and
wow.
it fit me perfectly. But I wanted something dear to me to be in that. I wanted part of me to be in that treasure chest. And when I closed the lid for the last time, I told myself, that some of me is in that treasure chest.
Can you turn on Mika's microphone? Mika, what have you seen? You're nodding because do you remember seeing some of the stuff that's in the treasure chest?
I remember when he was I was quite young at the time.
Right.
But I remember when he was putting it together, and I remember the bracelet. And I have lots of friends who have gone out looking for it, and I've always told them that if you find it,
it's yours?
The only thing I want is that turquoise bracelet. I said you can
Really?
keep the gold and you can keep the jade.
The bracelet we're talking about from Mesa Verde.
But I'd love to have that bracelet because of the sentimentality behind it for my grandfather.
Right. Anything else in there? The jade figures, anything else in there you remember?
There's a bracelet that I remember vividly because it's so unique, and it's a dragon bracelet. Right, Grandpa? Mm-hmm. That's made out of gold, and it has the eyes are rubies, I believe, and it's wrapped in diamonds, and it was just this extraordinary piece of jewelry that I remember quite vividly because it is so amazing and unique.
See, if you weren't here, I would still think he's putting me on, but because
he's not. I give you my personal word that he is entirely honest. He likes to embellish, but he's an honest man.
I love the idea that you won that in a pool tournament with Fred Harvey's
grandnephew, I think he was. It was in a pool game at his house in Scottsdale.
Wow. Have you been by to see the Harvey Girls exhibit at the History Museum about the entire, what a monumental marketing discovery kind of thing of the Southwest. People don't know the story of the Fred Harvey and the Harvey Girls. I mean, it was huge.
I have not seen that exhibit, but I plan to. But I knew one of the famous Harvey Girls. She lived up on Canyon Road in Santa Fe, and she had called me on the phone and said, "Forrest, come up here. Let's celebrate with some libations." That was a word she liked to use. I'd go up there, and she'd drink vodka, and I'd drink coffee. I'm sticking to that story.
Yeah, I bet you. Can we talk about your books? We'll take a time out here. Another quick break. We'll come back. Talk about the new book about Russian.
Leon Gaspard.
And they're going to come out very, very soon. And you say you got some groundbreaking kind of publishing technology that you're going to use.
That's right.
With
Everybody better sit down when I start talking about that.
Forrest Fenn is not only an old collector, treasure hider, but he's also cutting-edge publisher. Who knew? 47 minutes after 10. We'll be right back. KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe.
You're listening to The Richard Eade Show on KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe. Streaming on SantaFe.com. Call 424-4550. It's your opportunity to be heard. Call 424-4550 for The Richard Eade Show on KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe. Streaming on SantaFe.com.
Oh, child.
51 minutes after 10 o'clock, our guest in studio is Forrest Fenn and his granddaughter, Mika. So, Forrest, new book coming out. You said within the next 30 days. The topic is?
We hope to print it in the next 30 days.
Okay. What's it about?
Well, it's a biography of Leon Gaspard, the great Russian-American painter. He was born in 1862 and died in 1964. One of the famous.
Wow. 102 years old.
Did I say that?
1862, 1964.
Well, I may have stretched,
more or less.
I may have stretched that a little bit one way or the other.
All right.
But
so it's fiction.
He was a painter. He joined the French army in World War I, and he was sitting in an airplane, and he was shot down, and he jumped out of the airplane into a mud puddle, and it's a wonderful story, and it took him a long time to recover. But when he got married, he married an American woman, and his uncle gave him 3 horses. So Leon Gaspard got on his horse with his wife Evelyn, and for 2 years they rode across Mongolia and Afghanistan and those countries on their honeymoon. Figure that'll give you that'll clean out your sinuses a little bit thinking about that.
Absolutely.
But that's the kind of person he was. In my book, we think we're breaking new ground. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but on 2 places in my book, there's a link. If you type the link into Google, you get a video of Leon Gaspard riding on his horse in Taos. We're talking about, 1920. And another link you can click on, and you hear Leon Gaspard's actual voice telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
We have 9 paintings illustrated in a book that are 20 inches wide. When's the last time you saw a 20-inch wide spread in a book?
I don't think I ever have. Until 30 days from now, I will.
All right, so Leon became, so he lived in Taos. Was he a well-known, established painter, part of the Taos art scene?
Well, he didn't belong to the Taos Society of Artists, but he and Nikolai Feshner were both Russian Americans, and they were arguably among the 2 best artists that ever lived in Taos. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they spoke Russian together. They played chess, and Leon Gaspard made really great borscht and invited his Russian friends over for dinner. There was a high society in those days, in the teens and 1920s.
Okay, but you didn't know either of them. Never.
No, I didn't come on the scene then
until 72.
But I wrote a book about Nikolai Feshner, and he was born within a year of Leon Gaspard, and they were very close friends. But Gaspard paintings that I was selling in my gallery in Santa Fe in 1976 and 1977 for $7,500 are $1.5 million today.
Really?
I mean, the appreciation on those, and the same thing is true of Nikolai Fish. If you have any money sticking in a tin can someplace out in your backyard, you better go buy a Nikolai Fish painting or a Leon Gaspard.
Art still a good investment.
Art's a great investment.
Yeah. Who are of that school, say the Taos Art Society, Artist Society, who are some of your famous,
My favorites?
yeah, like a painter, if you saw one up on Canyon Road today or whatever, you would go, man, I got to figure out how to get that.
Well, Victor Higgins, of course, is one of my favorites, but Gaspard and Feshen and Ernest Blumenschein, I think, and I wrote 2 books about Joseph Henry Sharp. I bought his estate, and he was a good painter. He wasn't one of the best, but yeah, he was probably 4th or 5th on that list. But it's extraordinary that so many great painters would move to a little town like Taos. Blumenschein and Bert Phillips were in Taos the first time in September 1888.
Some by accident. The wagon broke down.
1898.
Yeah.
And Bert Phillips stayed. He was the first one to really stay in Taos, but they became fixtures up there, and they had trouble selling their paintings. Victor Higgins used to meet the bus with paintings, and when somebody stepped off the bus, he'd try to sell them a painting. Those, $200 would buy the best thing he had. That painting today is $1 million.
You talk about how we need to help our children, and children, in the United States are under a lot of pressure, and probably, like you said, they're the future. Efforts in Santa Fe, really wonderful programs like Art Feast and all these things to try and take the art into schools. You believe in those and the value of that?
I certainly do. The more we
have
can
you
do
done it with your children, grandchildren?
Sure. Let's get our kids involved in something. We're sitting on the couch too much.
Yeah.
And we're playing with our little hand machines too much. These little
video games.
Mick is guilty of that, aren't you, Mick?
I am, unfortunately.
Okay.
I put it away when I come to your house, though.
Well, if you get out in the sunshine, it serves a lot of things. First of all, you can lose some weight if you need to do that, and you can observe nature, and the smells are good, and the hikes are good, and we need to get out of the house more.
All right, this new book you hope to come out in about 30 days. How will it come out? Will it come out online? Will it be in print in bookstores? Collected works? What are you going to do?
All of that.
Do you do ebooks?
All of that. No, I don't do ebooks.
Okay.
And primarily because a lot of my books are picture books,
right.
And it's hard for ebooks to come out. But the Collected Works bookstore in Santa Fe handles all of my books. They'll have it, and we'll sell it online, and sure.
All right. Let us know when it's and we'll make sure we put it on SantaFe.com or however we can help spread the word.
Oh, do you have any money, or can you afford to buy one?
I don't have 30 cents on me. Gino's got money though. Gino's got all the money in this studio.
Okay.
All right. Hey, it's been a blast. I hope it you didn't mind. I think the hour went really fast. You're a pleasure to talk to.
Well, thank you, sir. That's nice, Mr. Eads. I appreciate that.
All right. Have a great weekend, and come back anytime you want. Bring him back, Mika, will you?
I'll do my best.
When the book comes out?
I'm the driver, so
I'll
get him here.
Yeah, I bet. And you're still looking for anybody that has a 1935 Plymouth.
Two-door Plymouth, sure.
Doesn't have to be the deluxe. It can just be the standard.
It has to be drivable.
It has to run.
I have to show it off around Santa Fe.
Or it doesn't have to run right now, but with a battery, little air in the tires, fixable.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Email Forrest. Go to his website, which once again is Old Santa Fe
tradingco.com.
Right, and they can find you through that. If you have a 35 Plymouth, send you some pictures, and you make a good deal, right?
That's right.
Like you said, you never haggled for anything. You always overpaid.
If somebody can find me a 1935 Plymouth,
you'll pay whatever it takes.
I'll buy them a hot dog. They can have mustard, relish, whatever they want.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for coming by for us. Mika, thanks for driving.
Thank you.
My pleasure, sir.
All right, have a great weekend. Coming up next, Julie Goldberg Show. It is coming up on 11 o'clock. We'll see you Monday morning, bright and early, 7 o'clock. By the way, great show on Monday. We'll have in, along with Simon Brackley, we're going to have in Bill Bonaski, who's the owner of the new Violet Crown Theater. Also, Al Lucero. You know Al Lucero, the guy who used to own
Sure.
Maria's?
Good
He'll
old
be
Al.
here.
I know Al.
Oh, he's a pain in the butt, that guy. As well as Ray Sandoval will make a big announcement about Zozobra on Monday as well. Will Schuster's Zozobra. Be back Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. KVSF 101.5, the voice of Santa Fe.
But everything you gather is just all that you can lose. Come again. Walking along in a mission in the rain. Come again. Walking along in a mission in the rain. All the things I planned to do, I only did halfway. Tomorrow will be Sunday, born of rainy Saturday. There's some satisfaction.
The voice of Santa Fe is KVSF FM 101.5 Pecos, Santa Fe. Streaming on SantaFe.com.